Welcome to the True Talk Cafe podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited that you're here. Our podcast will tackle a myriad of topics ranging from relationships to personal development and everything in between. Today's show is called He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not. You guessed it. This is our tribute to Valentine's Day. This is sure to be a fascinating conversation. But before we dive in, let me introduce you to the pod crew. My name is Renee Stewart, and I'm joined by my co-host, Carla Decor, Lolly Ramirez Bennett, and our other co-host, Anna Garcia, is feeling a little under the weather, and we're wishing her all the best. So collectively, we span 4 generations. Can you believe that? We've all experienced ups and downs in our personal lives and professional careers that have qualified us to share our unique perspectives with you, and we are excited to do so. But before we get into today's content, I want to let you know where you can find us on social media. On Instagram and Facebook, you can find us using @TrueTalkCafe. On Twitter, you can find us using @TrueTalkCafe1. Don't forget to like us, rate us, and leave a review. We value your feedback. We want to ensure that we are providing the content that resonates with you. So please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you listen to your podcast.
So we're super excited about today's show. You'll want to stay tuned to hear about what our guests are going to share about love and relationships. Yes, we're aware that some may be looking forward to Valentine's Day and maybe some others may not be. Whatever your perspective is, our goal is to present different views in this discussion. Also, stick around to find out how you can join us on a live show. So now let's get started.
All right. So as you can see, we are feeling the love, right? We have all red attire on today. So let's talk about what is love. Why does it matter to be in a relationship? When is the perfect time to really find a life partner? Am I doing that I can't find a soulmate? And I think these are questions that we often ask ourselves when we're looking for love. As you know, Valentine's Day is here. So let us begin with a little history about this special day. So this day includes a lot of mystery and different stories about the history of Valentine's Day, but the general knowledge is that it is a day to celebrate romance. The holiday's name comes from Saint Valentine. The Catholic Church recognizes at least 3 different saints named Valentine or Valentinos. One story tells us that a priest named Valentine defied Emperor Claudius II, who had decided that single men made better soldiers than those with wives and families. By continuing to perform marriages for long lovers, the priest Valentine kind of became known for that. When he was discovered, he was put to death by the emperor. Other stories also suggest that Valentine was in prison and he fell in love with a young girl, possibly his jailer's daughter, who visited him during his confinement. And before his death, allegedly, he wrote a letter to her signed "From Your Valentine," which I'm sure you all have seen it, is a general expression that we still use today, right? So, did you know actually that the English poet Geoffrey Chaucer was the first to record St. Valentine's Day as a day of romantic celebration in a 1375 poem called The Parliament of Fools? Well, regardless of how this celebration was initiated, I know I love Valentine's Day. I like to be celebrated, and I'm sure many of you also do. So we are happy to have a special day to celebrate our loved ones, whether it is friends, a special loved one, a spouse, and everyone really that means something special to us. So I think we all love the idea of being in love. I know I do. Although I have a lovely husband who I love very much, I have always loved reading about love stories and simply falling in love, right? So, why do we like being in love? We let ourselves fall in love because you're in love. You may experience some of the things that make us feel happy, such as releasing more dopamine in the brain. Our focus becomes more positive, intensifying attraction, emotional dependency, planning for the future, and just feeling on empathy. However, we know that it takes more than love to maintain a healthy relationship. Some of us find love in different places. Some of us have found our happily ever after, and some of us are still looking for it. So today we have a guest that will kind of share his perspective and experiences on this topic. I've been knowing Jose for a while, and I think he will be exciting to hear from about special days. So let me introduce you to the wonderful Jose Piña. He is a certified body language specialist. He's a published behavioral researcher. He studies the science of nonverbal skills so he can teach others how to improve their communication. Some of his favorite topics are leadership, emotional intelligence, charisma, and deception detection. He's taught various groups and individuals and wants to make sure you know how your body language or how to read others. I always have so much fun speaking with Jose because I always learn something new from him about body language and communication. So, without further ado, Jose. Hello, Jose.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about this very special topic. So let me start with, I guess, a question that we would like to hear from you about. So what do you think makes a healthy relationship?
Probably biased because of my profession, but communication for sure. Communicating, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, because sometimes we see things that are not said. And that's very important. When you do see those things, that you acknowledge them, because if you let them go, sometimes they come back their head up later. So communication would be that answer.
Right. So let's talk about that. So you said, body language, right? So when you're maybe in an early relationship, what percentage do you think body language may play in how well a couple communicates?
I think it's high. And again, if you miss certain signals that you may not have picked up, it could alter, it could affect, how that goes. When you're talking about first dates, second dates, third dates, a lot of people, you are in a situation where you're asking yourself, whether you're on one side or the other, do I want to go and see this person again? And a lot of it, I think, goes within communication, but some of it does have to do, by picking activities. What do you go out and do? Are you going to do dinner? Are you going to do a movie? Are you going to kind of communicating again and finding out about this person in the early stages verbally, really affects that. But as well, when you're in the body language, they do the distancing. So small anxiety cues, and also
Just when you're talking again with the other person, it's a question that you shouldn't have, or maybe too soon.
the simple facial expression could probably tell that they don't want to answer that question, and that's not a good topic to maybe bring up right now. And you should know with that, like, to cue you, okay, maybe I should move on instead of keep pushing the subject because they don't want to talk about it. And it could be split seconds where if you don't decide that and you keep pushing the subject and you didn't read the body language, then you're putting yourself into, uncharted territory where you don't want to go into. So I think in the earlier stages is very important, especially because there's a lot that goes on and a lot that you can miss.
Mm-hmm. What about if we go maybe even like earlier, before, if you're trying to meet someone? So let's talk about, those people that may be looking for someone. What are some things that maybe they should pick up on when they're out there dating or trying to find someone to date?
Yes. So I always like to bank on the love at first sight statement that's used sometimes. And some people are like, no, I don't believe in love first sight. It's not a thing. But for me, it actually does happen because it may not be love, quote unquote, per se, like you were describing it earlier in your introduction. But there is a lot of information, again, that from the first time you lay eyes on someone that you take in, and you're going to start judging them and perceive them in a certain way. And we say we don't like that, right? Don't judge a book by its cover, but we do. Instinctually, and as humans, we do. And there's going to be a lot of information that comes in from both sides. And I think one of the most important things that when you see someone is, trying to feel how you feel and find out how that is, how that goes for you. And then also to engage, you want to make sure that you have their attention as well. So one of the first things is just eye contact in the beginning, immediately. You may lay eyes on someone, you may see them, but they don't acknowledge you. They maybe don't even know you exist yet. And a simple rule, I start teaching, because I'm going to be giving tips, I guess, now that we can, because this is one of the rules that I use. Within gazing is you typically want 3 exchanged and mutual glances at the beginning. So if you make eye contact with someone and you see someone, and maybe they look back at you and you're like, okay, I have their attention, and you think that's it, you're going to want to wait maybe 1 or 2 more extra glances there to make sure that you have their attention. And also in that time, whether it's a couple seconds, minutes, or maybe, more, closer to an hour that those glances were exchanged, you want to make sure and feel that it's okay to approach, one, and two, how are you going to approach, which I know is very difficult for a lot of people. I think that's what goes in, that little tangle, that back and forth. And I put it all on glancing or just eye exchange, make sure that that person acknowledges you and that obviously you saw someone, right? So I think eye contact is important in the very, very beginning, like the start of anything.
It's like flirting, right?
Yes.
Oh, I like flirting. What about, I hear often that men fall in lust versus in love and women fall in love.
Yeah, I think it does happen a lot, again, with visual. So you're going to see someone, you're going to lay eyes on someone, and we do tend, it's encoded in us because of evolution. We were meant to reproduce. And I think in part, a lot of that for people who want to reproduce, it's an old habit of ours. And I think a lot of people look into that and it kicks in, whether we acknowledge it or not, it's wired within us. And that's part of the physical side of things when you're going to see someone. And for guys, maybe it's quicker because they're going to look at those features first, or a physical facet first. And so when you say that or hear that guys fall faster in lust, it might be that just because of the reproduction thing that's encoded within us, that we have to multiply, we have to keep creating humans. And I know it's not that superficial, it goes way deeper. But in general, when it comes to physique and looks, I think that's the part of it that we are made, whether we want to or not by option, to multiply. And so when you talk about lust and, that falling into the physical attraction, I think that's what goes into it, that it's going to kick in. And then after that, what you do with it, whether you feel that lust or not, is up to you, because we still have a conscience that we could do something about it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So what would you say are maybe some of the common mistakes that people make on first dates?
On first dates, I want to say maybe I'm old school, but just proper manners, opening doors, things like that. Oh, greetings. So from the very beginning, now since, digital world, you have apps, someone first digitally,
And now you're getting a picture.
and so when
You take that and you met someone there, and then now you want to meet in person.
so you have to take into account both that you could be meeting someone online digitally first, and then you're meeting them in person, or maybe you met them in person, and then, because it goes both ways, then you see their digital presence, and it's two different things. So, first impressions go into that. And so I think first impressions in the way you greet someone. So there's always that awkward when you see someone and it's your date, or, you actually like someone, you meet them. There's this little tangle, whether it's a handshake or a hug. And it gets awkward sometimes because you want to go in and you're like, what do I do? Like, do I go close in for too much, contact and space, or do I just do a simple handshake sometimes and have it somewhat formal? And then at the end of the day, yeah, it's the back and forth. Sometimes it gets awkward. And from the beginning, that's it. Some people just lose it there. That it actually affects things, where I know that because I trained from the Behavioral Lab, Science of People. They did a study that did that on the show. There was an old school show called Blind Date, I think, or something like that. And I know it's TV. I know it's somewhat fixed. There's, TV magic. But from the chart, from what they discovered, they looked at all the dates, and they specifically looked at what was the interaction, the very first interaction, whether it was just a simple wave hello, whether it was a handshake or it was a hug. And the hugs and handshakes got a little bit more better reception as far as, were they going to date again or see each other. So, of course, that's because introducing a little bit of touch, appropriate touch, whether it's a handshake or a hug, that's welcomed. And so that always helps, that very first impression of when you meet someone. So I think that greeting at the beginning, it happens 2 or 3 seconds or very quick, can really tell what's going to happen moving forward.
And tell me something, because I know someone told me that politicians, they purposely go and they shake your hand with 2 hands, right? Like they kind of grab your hand with both of their hands.
Yes.
And about personal touch that kind of helps you make that connection early on before you even know anything about that person. Do you think that's true?
It is. We call it the politician's handshake because they are inducing more touch. So they will grab your hand, they will go in and they will put the other hand on the back of your hand, or they will grab your hand and grab your elbow, which also causes you to close in a little bit closer. And within all this, I'm probably going to repeat myself on 2 big topics of body language, is haptics and proxemics, which is just touch and spacing. You're going to see a lot of that being mentioned. And so that's what that is. When someone handshakes you and they do the politicians, a double handshake, like added extra hand, is more haptics. You're touching that person more and inducing more, and then also spacing. And with haptics, that just goes a little bit more deeper on oxytocin, which is the chemical level. And that's just a connection level. It's the cuddle hormone, what they call it. And that's all that is. Even in a handshake on something that's formal or more social, such as a handshake or a hug, oxytocin is going to be induced, which causes a chemical connection inside both people. So yeah, politician handshake does have connect a little bit quicker or more at the beginning of interaction.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that that does help, I guess, make that best first impression when you're meeting someone? Maybe can I get personal? Can I ask you, like, if you're dating someone, going on a date, what will help you feel more comfortable with that person or more welcoming if you first meet them? Would it be, I know Spanish people, we like the kiss on the cheek, oh, hi,
Right.
whatever. So what do you think is better to help that person feel more comfortable on the first date?
For them to do to someone, or like for you to approach someone?
From a men's perspective.
I guess approachable and comforted, because again, we read into people immediately, and you could tell, was there a slight hesitation in the first step that they didn't want to come up for a hug or a handshake, or are they just going to sit there and wave and say hi? Like that's the greeting, again, the first impression greeting. Yeah. If I see that, if I still they're a little bit more reserved, you kind of want to, don't go in if you just want to wave and do that as well. So for it to be a little bit more comfortable, the reciprocation, it's going to be a handshake, if it's going to be a hug,
Smile, I know it's not very universal. We all know what a smile means.
as long as it's real and genuine, and it's not a fake smile like, hey, I'm happy to be here, but I don't want to go on this date. As long as it's something that's like genuine and reciprocated, then you could smile back. I would just start off with that a smile that says that you're comfortable and that I could be around you and we're going to share space. And then either a handshake or a hug would be something that's a good sign.
Okay. Well, let me go to my podcast and let me ask them, maybe from your experiences dating, let me start with Renee. Now Renee likes to date. So what are some maybe mistakes that you've seen in dates? Maybe from you or other people that have shared with you?
Some mistakes, I'm going to talk about others first, and then maybe I'll share something about myself. From others, what I've seen and what I've heard from other girlfriends or even guy friends, basically sharing too much on the first date, trying to move in too quickly. So what they're thinking is, oh, we have some chemistry here. And now they think, the next day they're going ring shopping. So it's like you have to just kind of pull back and just have fun and take it day by day. Definitely as far as first impressions, making sure that you're dressed appropriately for the date. Your nails are clean. You've got your hygiene together. You know what I mean? Definitely. Because I know for me, I want to see a nice warm smile. And hello, nice to meet you. That's what I want to hear. It's fine if you want to do a handshake or go in for a hug. Typically, if you're going to go in for a hug, I would say like, oh, I'm a hugger, or, something like that. So, because a lot of people right now, especially with COVID, because people are still dating, but even with COVID, people are very hesitant to, reach out and touch, because that adds another layer. Before it was just, oh, do I touch this person because I don't know you? Now you add the COVID layer in there. So now it kind of gives you an excuse not to touch initially. So you're not quite sure if, it's a warm greeting or if that person's into you right away, because it could just be, the COVID blocker. You know what I mean? Until you start to kind of get into the conversation. But for myself, I've gone either way. I know that me being from the Northeast and being down here in Texas, the dating's different. It's very different. I'm used to like, hey, I'll go and ask a guy out. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. And then even paying for the date. Because I was always taught in my neck of the woods, if the woman asks, the woman pays. But typically the guy will say, well, let me get it. And you're like, okay, I'll get the tip. Now down here, I was just going by my own dating rules. I'm from the Northeast. And then I had to quickly learn, oh, don't do that, because they were like, oh, you're going to pay? And then they'll expect you to pay every time. Okay. I've seen that. I've experienced that. So I had to go, oh, wait a second. I got to back up a little bit here. Let them pay. Several times too. Several times. Don't even offer, not even the tip. Let them do it. So that was a big difference for me. That was a big difference.
Yeah, let me get Jose to chime in right quick. So, Jose, how can you tell someone that's going on a date?
Mhm.
How can you tell what type of, I guess, approach do they prefer?
For like the paying for the bill, or what approach do you mean?
Like to be closer, because I know there's some people that are more touchy, some people that
Oh,
like
okay.
hugs, some people that not on the first date, don't touch me.
Right.
What is the best way for people to know personality they have, I guess?
Yeah, probably not personality, because again, you could go and find comfort in body language. And going back to spacing, certain small things such as, first of all, if you're going to go out where you're going, observe where you are going to be interacting. So if it's going to be dinner, where you're going to be sitting, or if it's going to be a theater or wherever you're going, take that into account. Are you going to be sitting next to each other? Are you guys going to find over the middle armrest? Or this is a funny topic, because I was just talking to this on my social media, and I dining with a partner, going out. And if you guys want to answer this individually, because I want to hear it from you, from all three of you, when you go out and you're sitting dining with your spouse and partner, and you're in a booth situation, what is the quote unquote correct way to sit? Do you sit across from each other, or would you like to sit next to each other on the same side? So if you guys want to answer really quick.
I think for me, if it's a first date, I would prefer to sit in front of them,
Okay.
across.
And having been married for 20 years, I'm going to tell you that typically I personally enjoy being across from them, because
Right.
I had that face conversation. Every
Okay.
once in a while, if it's conducive, if it's kind of a rounded, we might sit together. But really, for me, I find more intimacy sitting across from them and being able to engage them in that conversation.
Across. Renee, what would you say?
Yeah, I like going across, especially because I'm not married, right? So I'm
Okay.
going to be in a dating type of situation.
Hmm.
And because I like to read their body language, I want to see, are they mirroring me?
Right. And that's
Right.
that's a good point too, as far as reciprocating. If you, and the other tip on this would be leaning in. So if you are in a booth per se, let's say, and you're talking, a lot of people, we tend to find interest and we lean into the topic, the conversation. So a way to read into it, or is this person completely sitting back throughout the whole date and just not necessarily consciously backing away from you, but they don't find interest in a conversation or in you per se. So you could take that as a subtle cue, maybe you got to talk and engage them, or maybe I think that that's interesting to them. When people tend to get excited about something they like, we start moving our hands a lot, and we start, our vocal tonality starts to change, and we'll lean into the topic because we're so into it ourselves. So sometimes that's, I guess, a little trick. If you really want to, per se, pun intended, turn someone on, turn their brain on and get them engaged and interact with someone, you want to make sure that you ask them questions and conversate. Again, the verbal is just as important as the nonverbal. And so leaning in, the space you're in, back to the question Carla asked, how to detect people. It's that spacing, induce or try leaning in. Renee just mentioned mirroring. That's another good way. If you lean in and they lean in, that's positive. If you lean in and lean back, you might want to, keep looking for more cues and, find, again, some middle ground, some rapport to build there. And so, yeah, that's a very good way within spacing to see if that. Also, I know it's within body language, and you heard it within mirroring and selves. Their feet, the way their feet are situated, the way their feet are pointed. Some people think it's crazy, but we really tend to do it. Just think yourself in a networking event. If you want to go to the bathroom, your feet start pointing towards the bathroom. If you're in a deep conversation and you have to excuse yourself, your feet start to go first because your feet have to move to get to the bathroom. Or if you just want to get away, that's an exit cue. Your feet will start to go whichever way your body wants to go when you start thinking about it before you even say anything. So leaning in, spacing, and the way someone's feet are positioned are a really good cue.
Thought about the feet. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. All right, Lolly, how about you? Can you share with us some, I guess, mistakes that people make or do in dates?
I think that, Renee hit on one that I think I see very often with friends or family as they're looking at it, a potential partner, right? Is that you you have a tendency to move so quickly in your mind that you're already seeing, is this someone who wants children? Is this some, and you haven't even enjoyed the moment. I'm really big about being mindful and being present in the moment. And if you can try to focus in on them up front and really listen in and hear what they want, you'll get your answers to your question, but you'll have a much stronger connection than if you're off already in your mind planning the rest of your lives together, right? And unfortunately, that's something that you do see. The other thing is, I'm a big advocate for women. And so I do run into this a lot. And I really strongly believe that it's important that you don't settle. You don't settle for someone who's not willing to meet you where you want to be. That it's for someone who doesn't treat you the way you want to be treated. I mean, I think we have to have set expectations too, but I think that, if someone is mutually respectful of you and cares for you, that's what you're looking for. Don't accept someone just because you're so much wanting a partner. Accept someone who's not willing to give you everything that you deserve. I have to say that when I think about Renee's question, I was single. I didn't get married till late in life. I got married when I was 37 and highly independent. So I tend to be willing to, as you say, if I invited somebody out, I'm willing to pay for them, right? Or at least offer to pay for half of it. But again, goes back to that point about somebody who's not willing to speak up and say they're going to take me out or pay for part of it. It's not somebody that values you, right? If they don't, guess what? You have to make sure you feel comfortable with yourself. I have a phrase that I lost my parents at a young age. I think I've shared this before, but something that my mother used to say, and to this day, mom's been passed away almost 35 years ago. I still remember it very clearly, and it's great advice. And she would say it in Spanish, so I'm going to say it in Spanish first, and then I'll translate it. It's mejor sola que mal acompañada, and that translates into you're better off alone than in the wrong company. And you have to be very comfortable with who you are, so that someone else can love you the way you need to be loved. That's my piece.
Thank you for that. Let me just say, I will not pay for the first date. I never did. I don't think I would even now. Nope. I did pay like third, maybe fourth, not the first. I mean, I am independent, but I don't do that.
I think that's a good rule to follow. That's certainly not bad, but
right.
I had the intention. I want to be strong and independent, so I have no problem showing you I can do whatever.
Right, that's true. I don't know. It was just a mental thing. I don't know. Who knows? But so one thing you mentioned earlier was intimacy, and I think that is so important. And that's it kind of goes to what I don't know what I don't like about, or what I didn't like about dates, but what I know I did like when I dated was how could we make sure that there was some type of intimacy even early on. So like that connection that Jose talked about earlier, right? Making sure that even in a room full of people, I am the only person they're paying attention to. And there's, the body language, your body is leaning towards me, your eyes are looking at me, your hands are pointing towards me. Like I want all attention physically and, eyes. And I see that doesn't happen often. Sometimes, when my husband and I go out to dinner, we often look at the couples that are sitting in other tables, and you can tell when there's no connection. It's so obvious, right? You look at the table across, and one of them is on their phone, the other one is like looking somewhere else with their body completely turned. And it's so important to see how we're making a connection. Where's the intimacy, right? So we'll move on to intimacy for people that have been together for a while, right? So Jose, what advice would you give to someone that want to create intimacy just by being together, having that personal connection. We've been so busy with the pandemic and so many things going on. I think a lot of times couples struggle with just finding time to have intimacy because there's so many things going on around. So what advice would you give to someone? Some little things that they can do just to start to communicate and build intimacy back up.
Yeah, I think after longevity, you've had years and you know each other and you've gotten over that, what they call the quote unquote honeymoon phase. And all of the chemicals have slowed down and all of your serotonin and everything, dopamine are kind of balanced off because all those spike up at the beginning. I still would probably go back to communication and more importantly, paying attention to the small details. Because again, just like body language, you might miss a cue at the beginning and it could alter you developed not bad habits, but just at the beginning of any relationship, those will always come back up later. And if you didn't pay attention to the details, I think that's maybe something that diminishes the intimacy that you're talking about, what people may be looking for. And if it's not spoken, then no one knows. Or maybe one person does, but the other doesn't. And that goes back to communication. If it wasn't mentioned or if it wasn't read upon through body language, that whatever topic or whatever, thing may be bothering that person from the beginning, then it just kind of goes and continues to grow and builds up and that it bursts later in the relationship. And so paying attention to details, I think it's very important, whether it's just communication or personalities. I'm a fan. I really do like, and I follow the love languages, how people are shown appreciation, how people appreciate it. And there is a difference. I just either, if you believe in the 5 topics or whatever, I do think people are like to be shown affection differently. And that's definitely huge and important. For example, myself, I'm not a gift person. So whenever I get gifts, just in general, not just an intimate situation, I'm thankful, but I'm just like, I don't appreciate it as much. And it's not just because I'm not appreciative, but it's not my main go-to way of being shown affection. Things like that, again, little details that can fester and grow. And where you think you've had, that's why there's a topic called the halo effect, and this happens with body language. And again, a lot of the first impressions and things that you have all the good feels about someone, and that may carry over months and years and decades. And that kind of covers the whole part of the relationship. And you think, wow, this person's so great. We have it going on. We have A, B, and C, and you have a long list of good things about them. But then there is that bad list, the other side, where if you don't acknowledge or you don't kind of carry those along into the relationship, again, they will come up. And I think that's what interrupts, even if you think you have intimacy and you've built it. If you don't take care of the bad, the dirty side of things, and if you don't communicate about them, those are the ones that are very fragile. And even the strongest relationship will break over, I think, the smallest of unspoken or insecurities because they've built and they haven't been communicated with one person or the other. So with intimacy, details, pay attention to details, what bothers people, what makes people happy, what they like, what they don't like. And it could mean a little bit of change of habit for one person or the other, but I'll mention this within relationship, there's what's it called? Not compensation. There's a little bit of, back and forth. It has to go 50-50. So sometimes you have to change a little bit things, that if it means keeping up because it is a seesaw, you are the foundation for intimacy, then that's what you have to do then, to talk and communicate and make sure that intimacy is kept.
And I think one thing I've learned over the years, my husband and we've been together for 21 years, I think. Been together, I guess, my whole adult life. But one thing I've learned is that you have to kind of train your significant other how you like to be appreciated. How do you like to right, just to know that this person is thinking about you. And I think a mistake that a lot of couples make is they show appreciation by buying gifts. So I like you mentioned that, because oftentimes it doesn't take any money, really. It can be something very simple like washing dishes after we cook. Right. My husband does that all the time. I cook, he will wash his dishes. And to me, that's the highest way for me for him to show me that he appreciates me cooking.
So your acts of service.
Cleaning up after me, right? Right, exactly. So that goes a long way, but we have to communicate that with our significant others, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So anything else to add, podcasters? Lali, Renee, anything else you want to add?
Yes, I'd like to talk about our single folks. Well, things that are coming up for Valentine's Day. What are you guys going to do for Valentine's Day? Have you thought about anything? And on the flip side of that, let's talk about Galentine's Day And is it Valentine's Day or Palentine's Day?
Yeah.
I mean, I know girls, like I have a group of girlfriends, we get together and we celebrate ourselves. We go have a Valentine's Day brunch, lunch, dinner, whatever, whenever we can get together. And we just celebrate ourselves and we bring ourselves little gifts. We dress up nice. We just have a great time, and it's a thing now, right? It's supposed to be February. I believe it's February 13th. I wonder if guys do the same thing. Do you know, Jose?
I couldn't say anything that guys have a day to get together before or around Valentine's. I know I like to do it, and my family does it with family members. We like to show, love and affection a little extra around those days. There's a small treat or something, or, getting to go out to dinner. I've done it with my mom. I've done it with my family. I've done it with my niece. Also getting something to show that extra love. And everyone else probably just gets extra bit fun that day. But for guys, I don't think I've heard it.
I know it's important. It's important for single women. But I think there's like a show or two or a movie or two centered around Valentine's Day. And let's talk about on the flip side. We've talked about love and dating now. What about those people that just loathe Valentine's Day, whether you're a guy or a girl? I mean, what do you do with those people? What tips can you give them to get through that day?
If I'm answering, I don't know. I think those people definitely all had them. You've had the bad experiences, and I think it's if you've had or 3 bad experiences for yourself, just being conscious, like being able to be self-aware, what you can or may not be doing.
I think it's kind of where people just have 1 or 2 experiences now, and your baby rash just gets more sensitive, and we just start saying no, like I'm not going to care, and looking at other options, being single, or other possibilities. And I think that's for the people who loathe, they have had 1 or 2 or
maybe more bad experiences. But yeah, I think that's what probably might be it.
Me say that I had a friend that she liked to have different boyfriends, and her boyfriends always broke up with her maybe a few weeks before Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
Yeah, that'll do it. If it's this pattern that you think it's happening to you for whatever reason, and people will see it, they're like, oh, days before Valentine's, it's my bad luck, it's my bad omen, it happens. Things like that will tend to hurt people. But I think on the flip side of that, sometimes it just takes that other, they get a good relationship after Valentine's, and that builds up to somewhere. So sometimes it's just having a little more observation details and a little bit of hope to find something that fits you.
I also think that you have to give yourself grace. If you've had some bad relationships, or you're single, or you're married and things it's not the way you're used to, you have to recognize it's not that serious. It's a day. Yes, we try to make it fun. Be part of making it fun. Invite friends. We don't like to go out on Valentine's Day because it's just packed everywhere. So we usually go the day before, and there was always this restaurant we'd go to because I love crawfish, and that was my tradition: crawfish and seafood for Valentine's Day. And so we met. We always talk to people as we sit at the bar, and we met a couple of single ladies, and we just invited them into the conversation, and it was perfectly fine. I bet one of them is still a very dear friend of mine, right? And she's like, you all, I can't believe that you are willing to share your husband on Valentine's Day, so I wasn't alone. And it was, for me, it was getting to meet somebody new. And again, don't overthink the situation. Enjoy it for what it is. Treat yourself to something nice if you don't have someone to go out with, or call somebody and ask them to go out. It doesn't matter if just because it's the day of love or whatever, doesn't mean I can't call one of my male friends and invite them to come out and have a good dinner. And that's just the way it is. I think sometimes we are so hard on each other and ourselves that we just don't make the best of whatever life we can enjoy. And I also think it's when it comes down to, gifts and things like that, I do enjoy gifts, but only if they are well thought of, So we put off buying gifts for ourselves for Valentine's Day And we usually do it every year at the rodeo. Fortunately, like the last couple of years I missed out on, but we always buy. There's a jeweler there that we always have him make us something special. And so that's our tradition. We've been doing that for 10 plus years. And so ahead of time, we're already thinking, what is it we're going to get this time? And so that makes it a lot, I think it adds to that intimacy, right? Because we know something that we've done, we enjoy it and so forth. So I think that's the important thing is don't kill yourself over what you should or shouldn't be getting or etc. Just enjoy the day, make it fun, do something you enjoy doing for the person you love or for the people you love. Because, like Wissa says, we do it for family as well and friends. You try to make sure they know you love them, and that's it.
Right. So to wrap things up, let's maybe think about some ideas of what are some fun things that people can do for Valentine's Day, whether they are celebrating with a spouse, significant other, friends, girls, whichever one. What are some tips we can give them? Jose, you want to start?
Definitely, again, if you haven't or never tried or looked into love languages, the test, if you've never discussed it with family, friends, or your spouse, I think it's a fun activity to do. This is the behavioral side of me, to find out a little bit more about that person or those people you care. Make it a fun activity to send them and be like, let's not tell each other. Maybe we'll discuss, usually you're reading to them. And I think for me, I've always found luck with friends and partners when doing this activity, even not on Valentine's Day. I always ask people about personalities. I do see that it tends to start building a bigger, stronger bond at the beginning or strengthening a bond that's already been there. So for me, probably that, find a personality test or the love languages and learn if you haven't, or revisit it if you have. And then off of that, try to do something for the other person or that whoever else took it with you based on that. So if they're gifts, get them a gift. If they're acts of service, make sure you do something with them that's going to be valuable to them, and vice versa. Make sure you go back and forth, because I know the way you receive affection is sometimes different than the way you would like to give affection. So that's why having this conversation, being aware, and just doing that little activity, and it can be done at home. Again, I'm giving you a free activity for Valentine's. You don't have to spend any money. Whether after the gifts, that's up to the person. But yeah, I think that's a fun activity, finding out more about that person, which causes communication, which again, maybe it'll bring up a bad point in the communication and you'll have something. And what matters there is having that conversation, whether it's going to be a tough one. But after that, based on that personality or that test that you took. And then tacos is probably number 2. Let's go for tacos. That's my favorite.
Tacos. Always yes to tacos. Love it. Thank you. Renee, what about you? Any tips?
Oh, it's funny that you bring this up because I was just looking at virtual game night. So you're like, I'm going to speak for our single ladies and anybody else. I just happened to see it. You can have someone facilitate it. I mean, it does cost some money, but it's kind of cool because you can have, your best friend may be, on the East Coast or on the West Coast, and you can get other family members involved, and they have different price points for the number of people that actually participate. And I mean, it looked like it was so much fun. I saw it on one of the social media platforms and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I might try that. So that's an option. Or you can create your own.
Yes, that sounds fun. Lali, how about you?
I think that sometimes the simplest things can mean a lot. So I don't know about you, but as much social media as we do every day, when I get a card, actual written card, I'm like pretty excited. Somebody took the time to go, and God, I hate going to the post office. So that in itself is like, whoa, that's major, right? So maybe sending out a card to somebody that's, even if they're in town, and just taking a moment to say, I really enjoyed the time that I spent. Let's look forward to doing something again soon. I think that, again, being the strong advocate for women, I'm going to have to throw in my little pitch here and say, I think it's most important for you to learn to love yourself before others can love you, because then you know what you can ask people to give you back. So that I will stand on that one any day. And I wish everyone all the love they so desire on Valentine's Day. But remember that to get love, you have to give back that love. So
love is a two-way street. That is very, very true. So thank you so much for sharing that. I agree with you. I think sometimes we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves first. And a lot of women often think that somebody has to validate that it's Valentine's Day and that they should be celebrated. You don't have to wait for anyone. If you want to celebrate yourself, go buy yourself something nice, right? We don't need to wait for anyone. So I hope that this was helpful for everyone. Let's thank our guest speaker again. Jose, thank you so much for making time to join us and sharing some of your wisdom about body
Yes,
language. I
thank you.
think we all learn a lot. Anything
yeah.
else that you want to share with our audience about what you do and some of the things that maybe they can do to find out more about what you do and follow you?
No, I think we spoke. There's a lot of good questions, and I was thinking about that. We were having it was mentioned a dating topic episode, but the fact that we touched on from beginning to, starting or meeting someone to first dates, second dates, and also we went into long-term relationships. I think that's very important. And the fact that communication just matters that much in each part along the way of the journey of any relationship or dating. So, just keep my company, my tag phrase is your nonverbals are showing. Keep that in mind that the body language is there, your body language is going to be showing. That's very important to also know. We talked about reading people and what we could do, but your body language will show. If you like or dislike something or someone and something goes on, that will be there. And it's very important just to keep it top of mind as much as everything else that you have. So, put the phones away. I think Lolly said something, be in the present and make sure that you're picking up on those cues or what may be happening that you can miss and probably hinder or, make your dating process go better. And as far as where, people are learning and where you could find me, I'm definitely on social media. Everything's at Your Nonverbals. So Your Nonverbals are showing Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is one of my go-to. And I will be having some content too. I will say, shameless plug, I do have my own podcast too that goes over these topics. My highest viewed podcast or listened to is the body language of attraction. So there's a topic there as well if anyone wants to go listen to that in a good resource as well.
Well,
Excellent.
thank you
Excellent.
so much. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Enjoy, be
Yes.
love, give love, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Molly.
So this was such an insightful episode. Many of us have experienced love at least once in our lives. As mentioned, it can be the most exciting thing, but it can also cause us heartache, unfortunately. But what is that old saying? Better to have love than not, right? And so you got to kind of put yourself out there. As promised, here's how to join us as an audience member on our next show episode. We hope that you're as excited as we are. We ask you to go to our True Talk Cafe Facebook page and send us a request to attend episode 5 as an audience member. Be sure to use the hashtag TTCEP5. Again, hashtag TTCEP5. We will respond to your request with our podcast website link, and that's https://podcast.bcast.fm/true-talk-cafe, where you'll need to enter your preferred email address for us to be able to send you the audience link. We also send all members a reminder the day before showing so that you'll be ready and prepared to join us. It's going to be so much fun to have you join us live. As always, we welcome your feedback. So please let us know your thoughts about today's show. Leave a comment or review. We will respond to all comments. Please be nice though. We love to hear your thoughts about today's episode. Let us know how you rate it. I really learned so much today, Jose. I really can't thank you enough for that. And again, how important is that communication in any relationship that you do? Again, rate our episode, and we appreciate you tuning into our podcast. We do hope you will join the TTC Crew Facebook page. Again, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook using @TrueTalkCafe. Please use hashtag TTC Talks or True Talks Tuesday. With that, we are looking for recommendations for discussion topics in the future. But we want to be sure that we're giving you content that you feel is valuable to you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and thank you for listening. We hope that you will join us for our next podcast episode. We will be focused on Black History Month, and I think we'll have another guest interview joining us next month as well, or on the next call. This is sure to be an engaging conversation. If it's the person I think it is, I think you'll enjoy the conversation a lot. So join us again. Talk to you soon, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye, everyone.
Valentine's Day.
Bye-bye.